Hey everybody. So I am just in my favorite place, my bed, and this was my bedtime reading last night. So I was meditating last night, as always, and I was I was conscious meditation last night, which I always do before bed, and I was describing, which is what I do a lot, what am I feeling now? So what am I physically experiencing? What is this space that I'm in? Where am I? And the phrase that I was saying to myself was basically along the line of I've expanded beyond. And so this is me just speaking out loud. I said I feel like I've expanded beyond and that I'm not coming back. So usually what happens is, now let me explain a little bit of what that means. So usually what happens is in a cycle of learning. So we go through a cycle of learning, every month that are subtle, but every 3 months you have a more, so we have, or I have, I won't say we have, generally you probably do, but I have a more sort of manifested, if you will, cycle of learning, where you actually start to see and realize the lessons. You get to sort of, it's written down and you get to refer back to it, kind of thing. So that type of wisdom we gain sort of every 3 times a year, really. Let's call it 3 times a year. So every 4 months, every 3 to 4 months. So I was saying yesterday, I've expanded beyond. And what I mean by that is, we have a physical body, but our awareness can obviously go beyond that. And I've explained this to you before in very simple terms. But for example, you are sitting in a chair, or for example, you might be sitting in a chair and your awareness can be to the edge of, so your body is in that chair and you can feel that your body's in that chair. But you can then expand your awareness to the edges of the room that you are in, and then the edges of the house that you are in, and then the edges of the street that you are in, and then you can expand your awareness to the edges of the town that you are in, and then the edges of the city, and then the edges of and so on and so forth. So we can expand our awareness. Now that's something that the first time you do it, I wouldn't recommend you do it if you have not practiced that. But it's something that, it's a really good practice actually. So it's something that you can do in meditation yourself when you actually do that. And so usually what happens is you can sort of, as I said, you can think about yourself in that space. You can be like, right, I'm in this chair, I'm in this room, I'm in this house, I'm in this street, I'm in this neighborhood, I'm in this town, I'm in this city, I'm in this country, etc. So you can expand your awareness until you become literally, I'm on this earth, I'm a part of, etc. So you really, really can. It takes a huge amount of focus and practice. Yes, I've done it. It's an amazing feeling. But it's then coming back in. It takes hours. It took me about 9 hours, I would say, to get to the stars, literally. So it took me about 9 hours of continual, maybe not 9, maybe it was 6 hours, day to night. So anyway, it took me the first time I did it, about 6 hours. The first time I did it consciously. And it took me about 6 hours to get there. And it was okay getting there, if you will. So it took me a long time, but it was nice and relaxing. And I'm you're just doing your vibe. It's really good. But then it's the coming back. It's the reducing again. So you remember what they used to call, I think they still do in America, don't they? They call shrinks, if you will, head shrinkers. So psychologists or psychiatrists of the back in the day. In America, they still call them head shrinkers. Because shrinks, that's where it comes from, to shrink, because I won't go into the whole sort of psychology of learning, but and of mental illness, etc. But your mind expands literally, and so coming back, if you can imagine, you've got to do that yourself in this process of meditation. It's quite a hard thing to do, but you get there. So you always come back in anyway. So no matter how much how far you go outside of yourself, if you will, in meditation, you always come back in. But I was very conscious yesterday, and I'm very conscious this week, that I'm coming into that physically. There's physical changes that have been ongoing for about a week now. I'm just nearing the end. There's a little few remnants in the physical body that I can feel that still have not fully moved over to this vibration yet, but they're getting there. There's only a couple of parts of my body, or areas on the body. However, I was very not concerned. I was like, I knew yesterday that I'm never coming back. So I am how I'm expanded now. So maybe, where how far my awareness reaches, if you will, that I can sort of keep in my brain without me feeling like unstable, has increased exponentially. And we've heard that a lot, haven't we, over the last few weeks? It increased exponentially. And anyway, so long story short, I started reading this. I was looking at the glossary, which is actually really interesting to look at, to be fair. I've never looked at it, actually. And I always remind you that the Tibetan Book of the Dead is actually the Great Liberation by Hearing in the Intermediate State. So that's the Tibetan title. And I love the precision of the Tibetan title, because it tells you exactly what this book is for. It tells you exactly the meaning of this book. And then the English title is just the boring, which is what we always do. We just the laziness of it. We don't understand the fullness of what this actually means, so we're just going to call it the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Well, actually, it's a Great Liberation by Hearing in the Intermediate States. There's a necessity, I'm not saying this is a bad title, but anyway, I'm saying this is the one that I like because it gives you the detail of what this book actually means and what it is. And so if this book was called The Great Liberation by Hearing in the Intermediate States, I don't think many people would have picked it up. So then is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. Anyway, so I digress. So let me just show you quickly the glossary. I mean, amazing. The contents. You've got here we go. Look at this. I don't think I must have read this years ago, a couple of years ago when I picked up the book. But that's the content. So you can just see the type of. So, for example, one of the liberations by hearing is natural liberation of negativity and obstruction through the enactment of the 100-fold homage to the sacred enlightened families. Now, you're like, Ruth, what does that mean? Well, it means a lot of stuff. But yeah, basically, these are the things. Natural liberation through recognition of the visual indications and signs of death. Natural liberation through signs of confession. So there's lots of, we realize that there's a lot of things that go on in this book that we already do and that we already engage in, but they're just explained in a way that you can only read if you're at that sort of level of enlightenment. And that's just facts. So that's just how it is. That's just facts. So let me read you what drew my attention to. So what I did is, I always do this. So how I use this book is I'll have an experience, I'll describe that experience. So I might be having an experience over the course of a month or the course of a few days. I'll, try to understand that experience meditatively. So I'll reflect on it consciously and openly, like I explained the difference between mindfulness and meditation in the mindfulness and meditation video, which I just uploaded this week. And I do the meditation bit, if you will, as opposed to the mindfulness bit. So after doing the mindfulness bit, I do the meditation bit. You'll have to watch the video if you've not watched it yet. And I reflect on what I'm feeling. So I'll say, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what it feels like. And then I will say, well, I bet there's something in the Tibetan Book of the Dead that fully explains and fully describes. And you might say, well, how do you find it, Ruth? How do you find, so if you just have this experience and describe it out loud, like, how do you know that is what you're experiencing? Well, as I said, if you get to a point where you can actually understand some of the words in this book, like even just the title of it, The Great Liberation by Hearing in the Intermediate States, like, that doesn't mean anything to anyone. So it means that it doesn't mean anything to anyone. It doesn't mean anything to a lot of people. The people that who understand what that means, they're the type of people that should be reading this book. I mean, it's well and good. So when you can, and it's all about engagement. All it is, it's not like education in the sort of traditional sense that you go through. Someone teaches you, and I mean, it can be for some people. That is, they will spend their life doing these practices, and they will spend their life trying to get out of the cyclical experience that is existence, that is the human existence. They will spend their life trying to be as present basically as possible at the moment of death, so that they don't then die and are reincarnated into another human body to have to live another life of suffering. They want to expand beyond that, and that's why they do these. They have these rituals, if you will, and these prayers, if you will, etc. And these practices have these practices so that they can, as I said, expand or break that cycle, if you will. But anyway, I'm digressing. So the point, if you will, of me sort of reading. So I use this book in the same way a lot. So I'll have an experience. I'll say, oh God, I'm feeling this way. or I'm suffering in this way, or I've got this thought, or I feel like I've learned this, or I'm feeling that. And then I'll say, I bet there's something in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And I don't always say that, but when I say that, obviously, if that thought comes into my mind, then obviously there's definitely something there that I need to look at, isn't there, in the Tibetan Book of the Dead? Because there's no coincidences in that sense. I said our path is knitted together very beautifully and very carefully, and it's all based on where we are, where I stand now. And where I stand now is based on where I was a day ago, or a minute ago, or a moment ago. So that's why mindfulness is so important. Anyway, I digress. So I was doing this I have this meditation. This was about 2:00 in the morning yesterday. So, once I get going on me stuff, I can't stop. So this is what I found. I went from I went in all different areas. It was very interesting. It was very interesting learning about the greater vehicle, which was quite interesting. A term referring collectively. So this is Sutrayana, a term referring collectively to the first 3 of the 9 vehicles when contrasted to the 6 vehicles of the Tantra. So now we come to the Tantra. Now the Tantra is where I know that I'm past the Tantra, but I'm going to read you the post anyway. This is the glossary at the back. I'm going to read you the bit what I read. One of what I read last night. So the Sanskrit word Tantra is the Tibetan and its Tibetan equivalent ragyud literally mean a continuum or unbroken stream flowing from fundamental ignorance to enlightenment. Tantra has 2 basic meanings in Buddhism. It refers to the continua of ground, path, and result, and to the literature or Tantra text which expound these continua in the context of the classes of Tantra. The former is the actual meaning of Tantra. So ground, path, it tells you here. Through the continuum of path, the primordially present continuum of the ground is the realized or fully manifested as a continuum of the result. I'm going to tell you what that means in a nutshell. In a nutshell, that means if you don't know, you can't grow. So when I'm saying these little pithy phrases about you've got to be here to be here and all that stuff, the things just the little pithy phrases that I say, they've actually, they don't come from here, because I didn't read this, a week ago or a month ago or a year ago and say, that means this. It doesn't work like that. I only look at these after I know something, after I understand something. So that's what the learning is. You can't learn from a book. You learn from, as this basically says beautifully, the continuum path, the continuum of ground, and the continuum of result. You learn by doing. You learn by walking the path. You learn by being on the path, and that's what gets you results. And that means that we face everything. That means that we hang on, I'm going to read everything. I'm going to read it because I'm getting too carried away and excited. Okay. Because Tantra includes sophisticated techniques, you can see that, can't you? Because Tantra includes sophisticated techniques which, unlike the Sutra path, enable dissonant mental states such as desire, attachment, and hatred, aversion to be transmuted into states of realization without renunciation or rejection, the practitioner can cultivate an uninterrupted continuum between the practitioner's ordinary initial mind and the advanced mind of the path. Right, let me just tell you what this means. Okay, and the resultant fully enlightened mind of the Buddha. Let me just tell you what that means, okay? Now, the video that I produced the other day about mindfulness and meditation, so it's called mindfulness meditation, what it is, etc., etc. And I explained to you very clearly in that there's a very distinct difference between the word meditation and the word mindfulness. And this is that distinction. Now, it talks about 2 different paths as well. It talks about the Sutra path, and it talks about the Tantra path and what's different with the Tantra and Sutra. And what's different between Tantra and Sutra is what it says here. Enable the Tantra path, which is the path that I walk, enables dissonant mental states. And dissonant mental states is when I said to you, in that other video, so the Reiki precepts, for example, are do not anger. But it doesn't mean that you're not allowed to be angry. It means if you're angry, notice that you are angry and engage with the fact that you're angry. And that is what the Tantra path also asks you to do. So when if you don't know, you can't grow, be where you are to learn, etc., etc. All these little things that I always say to you guys. That is really the path of Tantra, and that is really the path of accepting your experiences in order that you can learn about your experiences. And it's that learning that creates the results. It's that engagement with what's going on in your current experiences that gives you that result. So it talks about the dissonant mental states, and the dissonant mental states are just that: attachment and desire, hatred or aversion, but as it says, to be transmuted or changed, like I talk about with the transmuted or changing shift, where our energy it changes literally transforms from one thing to another. So hate becomes love, like the Lover's card. This is, again, I'm going all over the place, but it's because I'm very excited about the whole thing. But anyway, so where are we up to? So hatred, aversion. So again, these dissonant mental states are the things that make us, when people talk about they don't have peace of mind, it's because we have attachment, it's because we have desire, it's because we feel aversion, it's because we have hatred. They're not, again, the neutral experiences, in the sense of it's an experience that if you can engage with, then you can walk that path and you can have that result. You can learn to change that into something else. But it really just shows a tantric path, the path of mindfulness, tantric mindfulness, which is from the Nyingma school, which is the school that this is where this book comes from. It comes from the Nyingma school. We were talking 11th century. This is the 11th century that I talk about. The Nyingma school is, basically it's a tome of literature, based in, comes from traditional Indian Buddhism. And it was these, and they wrote about it, the gurus, if you will, or the masters. They have specific names, but they wrote about the meditations, their experiences, created the poems, and the teachings, if you like, in 11th century India, so in 10, whatever, or they were developed up until that point, if you will. And it was after that point that they were then taken through to Tibet. So that's when the Nyingma teachers, if you will, the Nyingma school, they then went from India into Tibet, and this is when they passed on the teachings, and that's where we get books like the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and teachings like the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So the Sutra is about really not accepting, if you will, not accepting the dissonant mental states, but the Tantra path, which is the path that I walk, or the way that I live, the way that I engage with my experiences, that's basically what it means. So it's just a way to engage with your experiences. So it's very interesting. So I'll just read you there's a lot. I can't pronounce these Indian words. I'm really sorry. I can pronounce Nyingma because it's quite straightforward. So in the Nyingma school of literature, which expounds this dynamic, is divided into a sixfold oh my gosh, so interesting. Sixfold classification of the three outer tantras. I won't read the name. Oh, I can read them actually. Yeah, I can. Kriya Tantra, Ubhayyan Tantra, and Yoga Tantra. I can say that one. Yoga Tantra, that's easy, that one. And the three inner tantras, namely Mahayoga, Anu Yoga, and Ati Yoga. Right? So these six classes represent stages of ever-decreasing emphasis on external... Sorry, I need to remember why I'm even reading this thing. So this is the point. So this is what I now know. This is where I now know myself to be. So this was my description of where I'm at right now. I read this and I was like, this is where I'm at. Right, you ready? These six classes represent stages of ever-decreasing emphasis on external ritual and ever-increasing subtlety of internal meditation, together with an ever-increasing subtlety of the dissonant mental states, attachment in particular, that can be transformed into a blissful experience conjoined with the realization of the actual nature of reality. It is said that on the basis of fulfillment, this is the bit that I got very excited about, it is said on the basis of fulfillment of the generation and perfection stage of the 3 inner tantras, fully manifest Buddhahood can be attained in a single lifetime. Now, I would never, ever sort of describe the things that I do. I mean, I suppose we because we have the sort of, hang on, before I get all carried away, let me tell you this. This is where I'm at. So I'm at that stage where I've gone through, I didn't know that those 3 stages existed. I only read this last night, but I've gone through those 3 stages. The 6 classes represent stages of ever-decreasing emphasis on external ritual and ever-increasing subtlety on internal meditation, together with an ever-increasing subtlety on the dissonant mental states, attachment in particular, that can be transformed into blissful experience, conjoined with the realization of the actual nature of reality. It is said that the basis of the fulfillment of the generation of the perfection stage of the 3 inner tantras, fully manifest Buddhahood, can be attained. I mean, how do you even... I mean, I could sit and explain that to you, but I kind of, what I take away from people that are literally walking the same path that I'm walking, there's not many people that are doing this. There's not many people that know that they're doing this. But what I'm taking away from you is the experience for yourself. This is something that you, in time, will experience. And it's something that I, myself, have now experienced. I'm not going to say, maybe I'll get to Buddhahood. I don't know this lifetime. But I feel like... I feel like it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing to feel and to know, to be able to describe an experience that you've had and then find that experience written so beautifully in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I'm like, all the questions that you have, they disappear because you always think and feel that, well, I don't. This is the thing. I was like, I'm not even, the reason I knew that I was having this, I was like, I'm not feeling bothered anymore. Like, I'm not, like, obviously, like, it's a really stressful time. Things, corona, blah, blah, blah. Like, people, obviously people are dying and it's terrible, the world and all that stuff. And when corona started happening, I was like, oh my God, like, I was like in shock for like 3 weeks. Like, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't eat. All I could do is watch the news. And recently I've been watching the news. And I'm like, but like last night, I'm like, what is wrong with me? Because I'm just not feeling the same way that I felt before. So that's when I started the meditation. I was like, I don't really understand why I'm feeling like this, because I actually feel fine. Like, I understand, like, but I was also like, but I'm still not doing this. And I physically still feel like this. And that meditation went on for about an hour. And that's when I had the description of, I feel like I've expanded. I feel like I've expanded beyond, and I don't feel like I'm ever going to come back. I feel like I'm going to be this expanded, Anyway, so I digress. So basically, what I'm here to tell you is that, yes, I have expanded, and I've expanded beyond the first 3 tantras. So this is good. Do you know what? It's interesting because a lot of people, they'll hear the word tantra and they think of it as, tantric sex. And I know that that's something that I always thought of, tantra. But the beautiful thing about tantra is it literally just means continuum or unbroken stream. So, and what it means, fundamental ignorance to enlightenment. That's the first mystery when I was taught that they talk about in the Tibetan, in Pista Sophia. The first mystery, the mystery of the first mystery, the first great mystery. Jesus refers to it in all these different ways in Pista Sophia. But that's the first mystery, the fundamental ignorance to enlightenment. And that's why, personally, I believe that Jesus, when he was in the desert, he actually was over in India or in Tibet, learning about mindfulness. That's what I believe, in my personal study, as I've learned more about, religion, and not religion actually, as I learned about spirituality, and then I look back to the things that I know about and that I was taught about in my religion, Catholicism, I believe that the desert that Jesus went to was the desert that they refer to was actually India or Tibet. It probably India, because I don't know if probably India, because at that time that's where it was. It wasn't in Tibet then, or the sort of the teachers weren't, I should say. The teachers brought it out of Tibet, didn't they? Out of India in about the 11th century. Could have happened before. I think the Sutra path actually came before that. Anyway, I digress. So, fundamental ignorance to enlightenment. So, when I say to you, and that it's this continuum. Tantra is just a continuum, an unbroken stream. So you can understand why people talk about tantric sex and what that might mean, and also the Karma Sutra. Isn't it interesting though? Karma Sutra. That's not. Now when you look at it from that point of view, if you look about sutra meaning path, and we know that karma is about experiences along that path. So that can kind of tell you that. The headlines. So like I said, did I say that right at the beginning of this video? I can't remember. Like I said right at the beginning of this video, the English title of this book is Tibetan Book of the Dead, but the actual title, the precise Tibetan title, is The Great Liberation by Hearing in the Intermediate States. So it's that precision of this is what's actually going on. And this is what you're actually learning that I love about I'm an English teacher, so I like the precision of the language that they use to describe it, as opposed to the Tibetan Book of the Dead or the Karma Sutra. And what I mean by the Karma Sutra is we have in the West an idea of what the Karma Sutra is, and obviously it's not what we think it is in that sense. But it sells it, doesn't it? So that's the capitalism aspect for you. Anyway, I digress. So I don't know why I'm reading this. I'm telling you this, I suppose. What do you reckon, Tiny? What do you reckon, Tiny, give us a wave. Say hello to everybody on Key Wisdom. Hello. Basically, this is what me and Tiny do. I read the Tibetan Book of the Dead or whatever book I'm reading or I'm researching, and Tiny just chills there. I record a video about it, then Tiny just chills there. And goes, Mummy, I thought we were making breakfast, which we were in the middle of making breakfast, but I was like, oh my God. So yeah, I don't know really what I'm going to call this video. I suppose it's about, maybe I'll do these every day. I'll do like a little, or maybe once a week, I don't know. Maybe I'll do a little lesson, where I'm at. But, that expansion that I felt, it is amazing because it tells me that I have, and I knew that I felt it. I feel it. That's why I said it. That's why I was looking in the first place for where it could possibly be. So I know that I've expanded now, and I'm not going to come back. But what's good about where I'm at is that there's an ever decreasing emphasis on external ritual. So what I'm doing externally, and there's an ever increasing subtlety of internal meditation with the increasing subtlety of the dissonant mental states, which means that the dissonance is becoming less and less and less. So when you're getting usually annoyed, when you're attached to things or you desire things, they're becoming less and less and less. My attachments, the things basically that used to motivate me don't motivate me now. The things that would motivate me last week don't motivate me now. It's really like a huge transformation for me, a huge breakthrough for me on my spiritual path. I've said, I will be walking this path forever. It's a continuum, as I know, and I'm always going to be constantly learning, constantly growing. But it's just so interesting to me that I can look in this book, and this is how I use this book. The actual prayers and the actual rituals. I shouldn't really show, because again, it's for you to have the experiences, if you will. It's for you to have these experiences for yourself. I don't want to show this is the table of contents which I've shown you a few times. So this is for you as an individual to have those experiences, and for me as an individual to have these experiences ourselves, and to go through that learning ourselves. But I suppose if I'm sharing it because I feel the need to share it. So I suppose if I'm sharing it because I feel the need to share it, that might mean that people are maybe not in a similar place, but maybe going through a transformation of their own. That might mean that you're going through a transformation of your own at this time, and that's why you're looking for this video. So anyway, I just thought I'd give you the lesson for the Tibetan Book of the Dead, or the Great Liberation by Hearing in the Intermediate States, and I'll leave you with a nice picture of Tiny, who is asleep. And yes, Tiny, we can have our breakfast now. All right, everybody, love you. Bye.